And welcome back to Two Coaches, One Grizz. We're back from a couple week hiatus in the slow season, the doldrums of the summer, but we're back. We're back with a vengeance. We're going to talk some NBA drama as the world spins in that soap opera, and then we're going to come back with segment 2 and give a little bit of preview of the current events in the NFL and talk about the. We're going to start off with the NFC East, and then we're going to close it up with a little talk on college football and the AAC with Coach here. So we're going to begin tonight with Harden and the 2-year deal that he just signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. 2-year deal, $68.6 million contract. $33 million guaranteed for next season. It looks like he's taking a little bit of a humble pie as his skills start to diminish here. Gentlemen, first of all, how are we doing? How's everybody going? And what are our thoughts on this deal?
Well, I'm glad to be back. Missed being here and being able to talk and go over the various happenings in the sports world as we would have it. Some of us were having children. Others were tending to our children. And some of us were just tending to ourselves. But I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we're back. As usual, the NBA for me is drama queen central. I have no respect for that league. I don't watch the league. The Brooklyn Nets now don't know what to do with each other. Don't know how to. They have no idea which way direction to go. Now Harden is giving these guys a tax break of what, $32 million, $34 million. What a great guy! Just 2 years for $68 million. Oh, fantastic! He's playing for free. I mean. The way he say it with a serious face, I gotta take a pay cut. I sucked the last couple of years, so I'm just gonna take $34 million a year. How does that even transpire? I'm trying to hustle to make a little more bread, and I gotta work day and night and make sure that my to-do list gets done. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, Gil, I'm going to help you out. Welcome back, guys. It was a few weeks of, it is the doldrums of the summer, so it's not like we miss much. But I agree. Little pay cut, these days, 34 mils a pay cut, I guess. Technically, he is a better deal now because he's letting the Sixers able to sign a few more parts. He might be actually ready to win something now. Even after that, I still think he's on his way down anyway. And you brought up the Brooklyn Nets, last year's favorite to win the championship. Even when they were almost not making the playoffs, they were still the bets on favorite. That didn't go well. But now Kyrie also is dramatic. He wants to go to the Lakers. You got in the Lakers, Westbrook got rid of his longtime agent, which the agent said, I think it's best that you stay with the Lakers and, listen to what the coach has. And Westbrook doesn't want it. He wants out.
The coach said, maybe we could focus more on, your defensive play and your off-ball abilities. And he took it as an offense.
He took it as an offense, even though the coach is still telling him he's going to be a starter, which that's number one. He would never come off the bench. First of all, it'd be funny to have a guy coming off the bench who's making like $47 million a year. So there's that, which is absurd that guy's getting that money. But this is the NBA, man. This is what the market is, Gil. Maybe you should have found your calling with the hoops, man, because these guys. Your minimum base is like 10 now for some of these jokers. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not like you where I don't follow the game, but it does make it a little annoying that these guys, some guys don't even play. John Wall, who hasn't played for years, they still want to give him like a couple $100 million. I don't get it.
Well, and the whole situation in Brooklyn, Durant now doesn't know if he wants to stay. He's going to go, or he goes, or I stay. It was funny because I was listening today to.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go either, but if he does go,
I was listening to Coward, and they were talking about when he left the Clippers. I mean, it was not the Clippers, Golden State, when he said left the Warriors.
Right.
It's like, but why? What are you doing? And again, you see everybody on the Warriors is happy.
Right.
Wiggins is playing well. All the malcontents get to.
He leads
Golden
the
State,
Warriors because he
and
wins
they're happy.
He wins the championships, and of course, because I don't know what he expected. They weren't really his because the Warriors had already won a champ. But you know that if you're going there, that's going to be the narrative.
Yeah, but Steph even deferred to him and let him.
No. And the funny thing is, everybody knows that Kevin Durant was the best player on that team, obviously. Having said that, they still remember the ego that these guys want to do. So now I won my titles. Let me go to Brooklyn. Let me go make my super team, my best friend Kyrie. And what I think in total, they probably played like 20 games together, like in 3 years almost, with the pandemic, with the whole I don't want to get vaccinated. You want to be there for your boy and your team, but then you don't want to do certain things that you need to do to get on that floor. Having said, like Wiggins, who he did it, which he also has an article coming out that he regrets, doing it. But, you won a title. You made your first All-Star. There's sometimes sacrifices need to be made whether you like it or not.
So you brought that up, and that's an amazing point, Grizz. Like the sacrifice, right? Like I'm always big on, the individual accolades that a player accrues over his career. Like, yeah, you're gonna be remembered for that. But what people really remember are the titles. Like, nobody's going to remember that Andrew Wiggins made his first All-Star game. They're going to remember that, hey, you were a centerpiece, a main cog in that brought back a championship to Golden State, right? Like, your team accomplishments and the greatness that you achieved by winning a title are always going to take precedent and put you in a different stratosphere than your personal accomplishments, and it just goes to show you the ego that these guys have, right? Like, let's rewind it to 2012, right? The finals against the Heat, right, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? The first title that LeBron won. Would you guys 10 years later realize or believe that Oklahoma City Thunder team produced probably the three biggest prima donnas in the sport? Because think about what we're just talking about, what this conversation is centered around. We're talking about Harden, Westbrook, and Durant, who were on that finals team as 21, 22, 23-year-olds, or maybe even younger, that took the Heat, a super team, to 6 games.
5 games.
Oh, okay, gentlemen sweep.
They were really never in there by
Again,
but
10
I understand your point, Frankie. Don't worry.
Right.
We're going to hold on to that.
No, but my thing is like that was potentially the best team that never was, right? And because, as we see now, of their egos, they all split up. And look at what they're doing as individuals, trying to cut their teeth. One is they're all former MVPs, right? Obviously the best one is Durant. But you have both Harden and Westbrook, declining superstars, right? That were great individual players, but could never make it work when they were the centerpiece on their own teams. And even Durant now, again, will be regarded as a top 10 player of all time. He's probably going to be remembered for not being able to instill his own culture on his own team and not being able to put it together and win a title on his own where it was his stamp.
I still think no matter what, Durant ends up okay out of all this because of the 2 titles. Even if this all ends up, not working out, Brooklyn or wherever he goes next, because he at least won titles. There's people that think he's the best scorer of all time. So he's going to end up, I think, a top 10 guy when it's all over with. So I think he'll be able to skate through some of those. He'll take a few jabs here and there. But Harden, Westbrook, and it's not Harden's fault. Remember, when he left, he didn't leave. It was either him or Serge Ibaka that they were going to put the money. And they decided we'll go with Serge because they thought Westbrook and him probably canceled each other out and they didn't want to have that same. And, you still had the big was still kind of, a necessity. So who knows if they would have kept Harden, how that would have played out. But I still think, Harden, Westbrook, prima donnas is not even to be said. This is probably the best Harden's ever looked. The fact that he's taking a little bit less to because I think he realizes
that his
he's
game is not what it used to be.
Well, I think
if
he got himself in shape, if he actually gave a damn, I still think could be a scorer and still give you 25 a game.
My problem with
Westbrook just can't shoot.
My problem with him is that he is too ball dominant. And I don't think it can be that anymore.
I think with Embiid, it matches up perfectly for his game. So, like I said, if he decides, hey, I'm going to, lose some weight, I'm going to dedicate, I think they are someone to be, you got to be careful with the Sixers. But Westbrook, I don't care where he goes, that guy's done.
Westbrook has to shoot 47 shots to be able to hit 12.
I don't understand why.
It's disgusting.
He shouldn't have to shoot that many times.
Because that's him. That's what he wants. That's what he does.
He facilitates, obviously, because he gets triple doubles.
His 3-point percentage is disgusting. And he still keeps on. He just boom. It doesn't matter.
As the Latins say, duro de cabeza.
Yes.
He just doesn't get it.
That's it.
And the fact that he should have been you're with LeBron James, and obviously Anthony Davis gets hurt. But LeBron James, for what it is, he makes other people better. And I don't understand. If you looked at it, the ego is so much. I don't care. If you're getting paid what you're getting paid, I don't care where I'm playing, starting. To understand that if he did it right and would come off the bench and lead a second unit, and that would be his team, I think he'd play better because of the mindset. But
he'll never have that mindset.
He's never gonna have that mindset.
He's never had that mindset of being a team player, sadly. He stopped doing that 15 years ago. Yeah, he stopped being a team player
can't learn new
15
tricks,
years
apparently,
ago.
huh?
He's done with that.
It's just insane how we're talking about the dichotomy of this dude. Think about, he is one of two players to average a triple double in a season or something like that. Wins an MVP, and we're also talking about him as being one of the most selfish, self-centered players of all. In one sentence, we are talking about probably one of the top 3 athletes of all time, natural athletes of all time in the game, right? One of the greatest individual players with individual performance in a season, and also one of the most selfish at the same time.
He's arguably the most athletic. It was either him or Derrick Rose, and I think now John Morant's going to overtake him because John Morant, I think, is the perfect. If you were to combine Rose and Westbrook together, I think that's what you get. A guy that knows how to shoot. Can shoot the ball, knows his role, knows how to get everybody to play better. That's the next evolution. But Westbrook, definitely the most athletic player I think's ever played in the NBA. The way he played the game, but he just didn't know how to put it all together.
He's like a stretch forward in a guard's body.
And what's the sad thing?
He really is.
We're talking about a guy that had 3 straight years of averaging a triple-double, something that only 1 year had ever been done, and you thought, once it gets done again, this has to be amazing. The guy does it 3 straight years, averaging a triple-double. And after the 3rd year, nobody could care because it's all just empty stats. There's nothing. There's
fluff.
nothing.
It's fluff.
Exactly. There's no, and I think it's sad because you're putting 10 plus assists a game. That means you're getting people involved. You're rebounding ball. That means you're hustling. That means you're giving it all. So it's just the guy just doesn't know when to stop shooting terrible shots. He doesn't have that awareness,
which is hilarious, right? Because the new head coach, right, in the role that he sees Westbrook fitting is the spot up, set screens and corner 3 shooter.
That's why he's a rookie.
Hilarious.
Coach. He's not going to get everything right off the start.
I think he's only selling those 3-pointers as a carrot to dangle in front of him. That way he feels good about it. He's like, I can shoot threes.
I don't think he's realistic about coaching Westbrook because I think he's gone before the season starts. Somehow, some way.
I don't know, Grizz, because nobody wants the guy. And then he parts
the
ways.
NBA,
He parts ways.
someone will want him.
And then he parts ways with his agent, who that guy's the real MVP. We're talking about MVPs here. We're in this conversation of MVPs. That guy's the real MVP. He got you $40 million a year after you're shot. Your tank is essentially, quarter tank left.
But he got that,
and that's being generous.
He got that money before. He got that money because he averaged the 3 straight triple doubles was 2 years ago. So he was still. It's the last 2 years that have gone off the cliff. So the money was already there. So yeah, I mean, regardless, he shouldn't have even got that money. What people are getting paid. I mean, Lillard's getting $60 million a year, and that's a guy. And you know what? That's a guy that honorable enough. He doesn't want to go somewhere and try to be a guy that wins a championship just because he wants to stay. But that guy's staying home.
Well, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what is our conversation centering around, right? Like the ability or inability, really, to sacrifice, right, for the greater good, to ascend to a different level. Like, it is crazy the ego that these guys build. And again, we're talking from it on the other side as just mere peons in this world, right? And these guys are making, they have God-given abilities that allow them to make that money. But the term sacrifice here, I think, is what this conversation is centered around. Like, the inability to sacrifice to, reach that goal that everybody should be attaining is winning a championship is devoid. Damian Lillard, like you just said, phenomenal example. Like, that guy's sacrificed, and you know what? He's okay with the fact that he may never win a championship with
then
the
someone
Portland
will say,
Trailblazers.
"Oh, the money he's making now, why doesn't he let the team get other players?" Because he's had the team for years try to get other players. They failed. So I'm assuming he's like, "Well, I'll stick around. I love Portland, but if I'm not going to win a title, might as well break the bank for me."
But in all reality, we're really not talking about sacrifice. We're talking about the lack of team ownership, of teamwork.
People
because
don't know how
none of those guys that we're talking about or mentioning are team players. Yeah. They're really not.
This is what, even though this is obviously the player I'm going to say is in the NBA, it just goes back to show Tom Brady was the real GOAT.
No.
This is a guy that never, ever took the big dollar. Always enough where, I still should get paid.
I live comfortably.
Tom Brady should have got paid $100 million a year for what he brought his team.
No, after
Super
Bowl,
but he knows that can't bring you championships.
After Super Bowl number 3, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, but he realized, I'm going to make enough money in my life to be happy, and let's do the right thing. Obviously, he had the right people select good players and the right way to do it. But that's another thing. We're talking about these GMs. They don't know what they're doing, half these GMs, I think.
And in the NFL, 80% of the time it's about money being spent on each position.
Yeah. And in the NFL, you would want to try to maximize your money because it's the sport that doesn't guarantee, the long contracts. It doesn't guarantee a lot of things. So you're supposed to get it when you can because you can get hurt. And the guy got hurt and lost a year and still went through this because he knew that if I want to win Super Bowls and titles, I have to have a team around me. And if you take up all the money and you suck it up, you're not going to have a team. You're just not.
And like I said, and then again, like you just said, and in the NBA, it's become second nature. Yeah. Everybody gets, and no matter how bad you are or how selfish or anything of that nature.
So, natural segue into the MLB, talking about Juan Soto and him turning down a $400+ million contract.
It's for 15 years, right?
15 years, $400 million.
He's based on contracts.
This is Bobby Bonilla territory over here. But, looking at an all-star weekend for the MLB, go talk to me.
No, never mind.
Say it.
No, you already messed up once. I don't want to do it again.
What happened? Talk to me.
Nothing. Well, how's this Bobby Bonilla?
Because he had a 25-year.
Yeah, but he's making the money. How declining this kind of contract? How does that?
That contract was Bobby Bonilla territory because what was he going to be? 40-something years old.
Well, you're talking about how long the contract is. That's not the same thing as the Bobby Bonilla contract. Bobby Bonilla is getting paid that way for a different reason.
Till 2032?
Yeah, but that wasn't, hey, let's sign Bobby Bonilla for 45 years, as a player. The way, I guess, when he structured leaving the team was, if you want me to leave, okay, give me $1 million for the next some odd years, instead of, at the moment, they couldn't probably bring up the 20, 30 million, which after all this time, it adds up, and yes, it ends up being the funniest and best contract ever worked out.
Yeah,
but go back to your Soto.
Okay, but so Juan Soto, right, turns down that $400+ million contract from the. Go ahead.
Which, by the way, Washington left him and did not charter a plane for him to come back home. They're like, you don't want the contract? Find your way back on your own, buddy. Go. Figure it out.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, the guy's still going to make like $300-400 million from some other team at some point. So I think he'll be just fine.
And you know what? But good business move on his point because they're looking to sell the team. He doesn't know if they're even going to stay there, in that respect. And young talent, he will probably end up making more if he continues to ascend, And it doesn't hurt to win the home run derby as well, right? To add a little bit of to bolster his popularity right now and
he's
him being in the limelight.
Right?
23 years old, very young and ascending star.
I'm not a baseball guy, as noted on this podcast many times I've said, but I'm not gonna lie, man. I saw the derby. The young talent that's out there looks promising. Type of talent that I like if I'm gonna watch the game because they have a flair to them. The guy that he beat was Julio
Rodriguez.
Julio Rodriguez. Damn, he hit 30+ homers in the first 2 rounds. Beat the number 1 Schwarber. I mean, the guy looks legit. I like that kid. He has the potential to be a little baby Griffey or something. But
And what was great
21.
about the home run derby? It put the young talent on display, right? Which is this sport is sadly, deathly in need of that young talent, right?
Yeah.
Because it's an old person sport, right? The average viewership is like
but here's the
50
thing.
plus years old.
Who's the best player in the last decade for Major League Baseball?
I don't know. You tell me.
Wow, and you're a baseball guy.
And I haven't watched. Well,
You don't think
I
Mike
was a
Trout's the
baseball
best
guy.
player in
Oh yes,
in
Mike
baseball?
Trout
But
is the
why
best
did
player.
it take you a few seconds? You didn't even remember it because baseball sucks at marketing their players.
Cool, Jeff.
Baseball the best player in the sport has been like in some cave in LA of all places. Los Angeles, it's not like he's in a small market. And the best player in baseball is nowhere to be found or heard from.
Coach, I played
Why?
baseball half my life, and I'll be the first one to tell you it was my first love, but I could never watch it. You put me on the baseball field, put me on the mound, loved it. I could never sit down and watch a full 9 innings. There's always got to be other activities surrounding the situation.
To me, baseball in May, boring. Baseball, late September, starts getting fun. And then we get to the playoffs, I'm in. We get to the playoffs, I'm as invested to baseball as I am to any sport that I love. Because it means something. Every pitch, every hit, every at-bat, it's like something on the line. But the problem with this sport is in June, when I still have another 100 games to go to, today, I could take a game off and not care.
No,
that sucks.
And then sadly, and I'm saying this as a Yankee fan who I grew up, I was raised as a Yankee fan, and all I knew was World Series for the first 10 years of my life, right?
Yeah.
And again, I can still sadly say the Yankees are on a freaking tear. They're about to set home run records for the season. They're 15 games or something like that ahead of the second place team in their division. Like they're gonna run away with the number one seed in the American League. And again, I can honestly tell you that I've probably watched in the entirety of this season maybe 5 innings. And that's being generous.
Well, you have other things going on in your life. That's understandable. Like I said, baseball is not to me.
Some of the things that he has going on in his life, he could be sitting down for 3.5 hours watching a baseball game.
Well, to be honest, baseball is the perfect sport to put in the background as a snoozer, in my opinion. But whatever.
As you're rocking back and forth.
But like I said, having said that, I think that's why.
As I'm pouring bottles to feed my 8-week-old son.
I went a few weeks ago to a Marlins, the only Marlin game I'll go to this year with a family member, and I was bored. At the end of the game, sure, there was a few things that happened. The scores finally came up, but I was bored. Why things take long? They need to finally implement a shot clock on the pitching mound. These games, I like the fact, you know what I do like? The fact that they put now the base runner on second base for the extra innings. That's what makes it move now when it gets to extra innings.
I heard now that the way they're going to use a robo-ump is like in tennis.
Okay.
That if there's a call, you can appeal it.
Right.
And then they'll go back and then they'll put it on the screen.
Will that take time?
And no, because it'll be quick.
Okay.
It'll be quick. It'll be just like tennis.
So we're not going to need the umpire in the back anymore?
No, you have the umpire in the back. It's just like in tennis. You have the umpire, but as soon as the ball goes out or so, they call it out and the player says, hey, I challenge that call.
Right.
You know, I like they go straight to the screen and they show it real quick. So you'll get fan interaction. You'll be able to get things a little bit more
I would hope so, because,
engaging. And
to be honest,
and
that sounds a little bit like, if we're gonna have like 10 challenges a game, even if it's quick, it just feels like it could be a little slow. But we'll give it a shot. Let's get the plays right.
Can we so when Angel Hernandez is supposed to be behind the mound, can we just eliminate him completely and just go straight to the challenge?
I don't even know about umpires, but Angel Hernandez was the second base umpire that night that I was there, and that guy's terrible.
That's gonna be. I'm telling you. No, the thing is, you don't have 10 challenges, but you have you have a certain number of challenges. But yes, that guy.
Well, right now you only have one challenge.
No, they get one and they get a second. It's like in football.
Right.
If you get the first one, you get the second.
You get it right, you get to go
right.
again.
But no, I think this will be able to challenge 3 or 4 pitches. Again, you're not going to challenge, a pitch on the second inning.
Right.
You'll be, in the 8th inning, you'll have something and say, hey.
There was a challengeable play, I believed, in the 3rd inning, and it wasn't challenged because if you only got really one and maybe to get it right, you don't want to use it that early.
Correct. It's going to be game changing in terms of
I would
that.
think we don't need to
especially with Angel Hernandez ringing somebody up.
The pride of Hialeah.
I don't want it to be coaches that challenge these things. It should be automatic. Like if it's a discussion, go straight to that video you're talking about. That's what I would do.
Well, I mean, listen, I think we can all agree here that within, I would say, 5 to 7 years, I think it's going to go completely digital. I think I will tell you, the second strongest union in sports, aside from the Major League Baseball Players Association, is the Major League Baseball Umpires Association. So those guys are going to stick around a lot longer than anybody else.
That's
just because
another
of that.
problem. They have some of the strongest unions, which that's another reason why, yes, it's good for them, good for the players, but the sport in general is why it's behind the NFL, the NBA. I would argue to say college football is way ahead of it. Baseball is becoming a very niche sport, I believe, in certain cities.
Well, Grizz, the reason why baseball is where it's at is because of the strength of the unions and the lockouts that have happened. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Baseball has never fully recovered from those strikes in the 90s, right? Like, yes, the whole home run race between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire kind of brought it back after it was, it was on its heels in the mid 90s, but we all know what the result of that was. That was roid driven at that point.
But you had NHL in 2005 lose a complete season on a strike. I believe the NHL is as good as it's ever been to this day, if not better. And I would argue to say now that it has all these contracts back with ESPN, it's up there with MLB, to be honest, in my opinion.
No, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm going to say, well, what happens is this. With hockey, it's you view it a different way. Right? Those guys are knocking the crap out of each other.
Correct.
So, and they're one of the lowest paid sports.
Correct.
Professional sports. So when they strike, you kind of like, man, bro, those guys deserve more money. Poor guys. When you take a look at baseball, and I like baseball, baseball is not a overly taxing sport, except for the number of games. So whenever those guys go on strike, you're like, oh, look at these rich boys. Look at these guys. What's wrong? So that's taking a lot of the fans away from the game, because you don't want to, again, like we're talking about basketball, right? Basketball becoming a sport that are like, bro, these guys, baseball has gone through that. Now, to your point, they have not done a good job of bringing fans back. They haven't done a good job of promoting the sport.
I don't think it's the money they make.
Stars.
There's more arguments in basketball and football about what the players make than it is in baseball. I just think the game itself
the strikes,
has slowed down.
But there's less strikes. The baseball has had more strikes than the NFL. The NFL has had 2 strikes in 30 years.
But the last strike was 30 years ago for baseball.
No, it was. But they had a lockout.
They had a lockout that started, but they ended up playing within the first week.
But again, all that stuff has to do with the money.
All the leagues get through that,
right? But again, as I said, I think you lose fans based on some of those decisions because they are the highest paid athletes, and it's not a taxing sport. Right. Like again, in the NFL, you see them knocking the crap out of each other, and you go, man. Guy deserves money. But baseball's not like that.
I still don't think it's about money. I still think it's a sport that the youth does not want to play anymore. They don't see it as fun. I
see it as a combination, Chris. What I'm saying is, it's for the fan. It's a little bit of both. If it's
But
playing,
it's an older generation that watches this game. The
no,
younger generation
but if
is
you take
not
a look-
watching the
but
game or playing the game as much.
Well, again, in this country, playing it is different than watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just like with soccer. Soccer is a hugely popular sport for kids to play.
Right.
But nobody likes watching it. People don't watch it.
In this country.
Like I said,
Yeah.
in this country. See, like you were
That's
just
a
saying.
big thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not about the money. It's the way the game is presented.
I'm saying it's a
You got to
combination.
make it a fun watch.
I'm saying it's a combination
sure.
of both. People got turned off, and they have not done a good job of bringing them back, like you say, to make it more of a more viable game to watch and to enjoy. See, like yesterday, I don't know if you were. Did you watch the All-Star game at all last night?
A little bit.
They had Big Papi in the dugout talking to the
I think the actual
guys.
All-Star game is terrible.
But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Yesterday's, I enjoyed it a little bit more because, again, like I said, they had Papi's corner.
No, yeah.
So Big Papi was in the dugout
tried.
talking to the guys. The pitchers had, mic'd up, the catchers. So, again,
heard-
those were
yeah.
things that were positive there.
I
So, again,
think
that
those
might-
are good things that will help.
And that's what I'm saying. Those are things that maybe if you institute that in the game, it could help you.
But
it
it's
would be good.
It's the game that doesn't want to change most. They want to stay with their old stuff, which I get. Everybody, you got to change, though. This is a game. Every game is evolution. You have to, when we talk about college football in a little while, there's huge, epic changes in that sport because, money is what's driving this. But I very much believe that baseball is just, maybe you don't like to watch it. They need to take the amount of games down.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
So
you got to get back to like 130 games, something like that.
Right, and so and their unwillingness to evolve, as you were saying, right? It's hamstringing them with this new generation. As we, educators, coaches, we know that if we're doing chalk talk for more than 15, 20 minutes, these kids are on cloud nine, right? The attention spans, especially with a game that's already slow paced as it is. You're gonna lose these kids. You're gonna lose the interest. So that's and that's where we kind of opened up the topic here is the home run derby and the All-Star weekend. I think they took steps forward in trying to pull back that younger generation. Like it was like Gen Z on display, right? At the in the home run derby.
Home run derby is the best part of the weekend, right?
Correct.
Can we agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
And they started saying, I think a year ago, that they were thinking about implementing a home run derby style thing to end games, to break ties. It might be a little crazy, but guess what? It's fun. It's different. The NHL does it with the shootout now the last couple of years. You have to innovate. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a fun thing to do. Baseball has a lot of things to do.
The only constant is
it's never going to be the number one sport in this country again. I don't think that.
The only constant is change, and baseball is the exact opposite of that, right? Like they have refused to change for the better part of 140 years.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Things get stale.
Yeah, no,
and once again, the kids are big. If kids don't want to play this sport, if you don't want to play the sport, how are you going to watch the sport? How are you going to get into the sport? And I just think that, both my nephews, big into baseball growing up, played their whole life. They're already at the age they don't love the game that much, and they don't want to. They watch it.
That's partly to do with the culture too, Grizz, right? Because today's culture, when you play the game, like they don't leave any room for being able to play multiple sports, right? All the serious baseball players,
you have to stick to. And another thing I'll say,
it's a year-round thing. Like if you're not keeping up, and if you're not. There's only a very few, select few athletes that can walk away from the sport for a little bit.
Yeah, there's no Deion Sanders here and Bo Jackson. Here's another thing that I heard today that makes a lot of sense. Of all the sports, you've heard like a football player, this guy learned how to play in high school. Basketball, he learned how to play in high school. So baseball is the type of sport you need to learn that as a small kid. And that has to be a part of you for longer. Because of the hand-eye coordination, for the muscle memory, you need to keep up for that specific game.
And it's the definition of...
You can't just, I'm 17, I want to be a baseball player.
Right, and it's the definition of if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Correct.
Like, and a lot of players going into high school go through this, right? Like, you grow up and you're a pitcher, they let you hit. And then you get to high school and you're a stud, they take the bat out of your hand when it's one of your strengths.
Here's another thing that I think is a bad thing. it to me is one of the only sports that you get lost as a minor leaguer. People, what did some guy at 30 years old makes his debut? It's one of the only sports that it's so hard. You would think, I'll put my kid in there. I don't want to get him hurt. Baseball. It's a relaxing game. But it's the hardest, I think, sport to make it to the majors because of all that.
I've had that discussion for 25 years of my life. Yeah. You have 3 to 4 other leagues where if you fail, it slows you down for 2 or 3 years to get to the next, to get to the big leagues. Again, I was talking to our athletic director the other day about Alberto Amora. That kid was the number 4 first round, number 4 pick in the first round. Mm-hmm. Okay, that kid's become a journeyman. Yeah. He's a journeyman. And I mean,
the draft just happened the other day.
He hit it. He played for the 17 and under team in China. He hit the ball out of the stadium. Kid was disgusting. Mm-hmm. Man, great baseball player. He's a journeyman. He's on his 3rd or 4th team, which is, it's crazy. But as you said, it is the most difficult sport to reach the elder what is it called, the circuit,
the old man's league.
It's called the elder circuit or something, whatever. Senior circuit, the senior circuit. You know, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
And name another sport where you get moved up to AAA and it's a bad thing, right? Because you get up to AAA and that's no man's land, right? All the studs. If you're in the Super 2 league, you're gonna get pulled up. You skip AAA altogether.
Because you're in the NBA and you go to the G League or whatever that is. That's a perfect league. It gets you ready and they call you up.
And another perfect example.
Called up so much faster in those kind of leagues.
And a perfect example is one of our academic colleagues, highly touted draft pick, got a wrist injury, and never panned out. And he was slated to be a top infielder for the White Sox.
In every league you get drafted, you go to the league. In the NBA, you get drafted. First round draft choice doesn't go to the G League.
Yeah, no,
they play summer ball.
Almost everybody that's in the whole draft is gonna play on an NBA roster, most likely.
If you get drafted in the NFL, you go to the league.
You go to the league.
In the NHL, you get drafted, you go to the league. Again, baseball is the only
5%
sport
goes to play if that.
It's incredible.
The draft happened the other day, and the only guys that I know are sons of major leaguers. That they're probably going to be the ones making it to the league. And even then, they might.
And then, Coach, just, again, lending credence to what we were just talking about. You're a first-round draft pick, right? You're highly touted. You're signing this huge contract, single-A ball. And then you do well in single-A ball. Then you don't stop. You go straight into double-A ball. Then you may go into the Super 2s. And you don't stop. The grind to get to the major leagues and finally get caught up, people don't realize that you're literally playing baseball nonstop for probably 2.5 years before you can get to the major leagues. And that's that's why so many of these pitchers don't make it, because their arm gets burnt out before they even get there. But again, I think it was a good weekend for the younger generation of baseball players coming up. Speaking of, we talked about the best athletes. What sports do they gravitate to? You got Giancarlo Stanton that could play probably defensive end or tight end in the NFL, or as a power forward in the NBA. He wins the MVP, powers the American League to their 9th straight All-Star win. But again, they're not in the limelight like the other sports are. So, let's see what changes come. I think we're all rooting for, some evolution of the game to kind of get it back to where I think, especially Coach, I think you can agree where, I grew up loving the sport and it was kind of a centerpiece of my upbringing, but it's been irrelevant in recent years.
Again, I had the privilege of being in Boston for the 4th of July and going to see a Red Sox game, putting $25 on the Red Sox and winning the game. So again, it's all about that. It is the pageantry, the history, and all the things that come with it. But it is to be made better. Places
like Boston, the Yankees, Cardinals, you're gonna have 4 to 5 of those teams that it doesn't seem like anything we just said means anything, because it's still probably the most loved sport in that city, probably the most loved team in that city. But they've been doing it forever, and they have the tradition. But I just think the rest of the country, the rest of the teams
They've
are
moved
irrelevant.
on.
Yeah.
Just like we're going to move on to NFL in our next segment. So we're going to come back, segment number 2, NFL talk, and start our little preview, our preseason preview of the upcoming season. 2 coaches, 1 Grizz, coming right back at you. And we are back with our NFL preview. To channel John Facenda, gentlemen, the winds of autumn are upon us. We are 2 weeks away from the first preseason game of the 2022 NFL season. Hall of Fame game. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we're going to get a star-studded performance from their starters for about 1 series or 4 or 5 plays. But good thing is, football's almost back. It's getting back in the headlines. We're going to start off with the major headline of today. Jimmy Garoppolo gets cleared from his shoulder surgery. And promptly, the San Francisco 49ers put him on the trade block. Gentlemen, comments, thoughts, concerns?
Sir, he's been on the trade block for weeks. This is just them telling him, hey, go see if you can find somebody, because we've been looking and nobody wants you right now. So go, give it a try. Tell your agents to go get him.
The guy was on the trade block while he was taking the team to the NFC Championship. Once you draft that guy Lance, where he was drafted, trading up, he's gone. It doesn't matter. It's over for him. You had a nice career here, kid. We love you. We're going to try to get you in a good spot if that's possible. But his tenure as a Niner, whether it was going to be this year or next, it's over. So not shocking. Wait till the guy was cleared with the shoulder. He's good to go. Guys, anybody want him? Guess what's going to probably happen? Someone's going to lose their quarterback in one of these preseason games, or maybe they're not happy with how they're looking, and this guy will be traded promptly.
Or the inevitable happens and Mr. Deshaun Watson is suspended and they got to pick somebody up and they bring in Garoppolo because they don't feel that the guy there is going to be able to handle this year's offense. And again, Cleveland has a nice squad. Cleveland is loaded.
They're only a quarterback away.
Listen, and for what it's worth, you take it as a good thing or bad thing. Jimmy Garoppolo has not 1, but 2 agents working on this situation. And you know what? It's a travesty because if you block out his name, right, Sharpie out his picture, the guy's a winner. He's been to, 3 NFC championships? Or 2 NFC championships?
2.
Been to a Super Bowl, was about 7 minutes away from winning that, right? If he would have made 1 or 2 throws across the middle, it would have been a different story. And they follow that up with promptly drafting a quarterback at number 3 overall. Which is, and again, also concerning that they're giving the keys to the car to that kid when he couldn't beat him out last year.
Kid's a rookie. You're hoping that Garoppolo can stay healthy. The reason they drafted that kid was insurance. They knew that was 3 or 4 years away. And they figure if Jimmy G can stay healthy, we're good. We have a championship caliber quarterback. Because when he's healthy, he can play. But he just can't stay healthy. And that's the knock. And that's the reason
he could drive the car where you need it. He could hold the fort till this kid was ready. They feel he's already ready to get rid of him. And like you said, a rookie, not every rookie comes in day one and is put to start. The situation did not merit him to start. He had time to learn from a guy who, by the way, learned for a long time from Tom Brady how to, make himself a good quarterback. So the thing about it is, it's his time to go. Thank you, Jimmy. We got to move on. This guy, Lance, they're ready for him. There's people still thinking that he can lead them to a Super Bowl with Lance. That's how stacked this Niners team is defensively, I believe. They still got weapons on the offense.
They got to settle that Debo situation.
Yeah, they got to get that situation resolved, but I think it will be resolved. I thought if he would have been gone already, so that's pretty much it for that.
Well, listen, and I think part of it is a little bit of hubris on the 49ers part, especially the head coach. Yes, he's a phenomenal offensive mind. Okay? And the guy cooks up some schemes there that you're like, wow, like I would love to be able to do that. But again, that's also saying you're talking about having a quarterback that is seasoned versus we're putting this kid to the fire and expecting to do the same thing. So let's see what happens. I mean, you know, it's just concerning. I would keep him because he's going into the last year of his contract, and it's kind of, you know, it's affordable. It's like $26 million in his last year. You know, so I would keep him for one more year, especially if you know Trey Lance craps the bed, for lack of a better term.
No, but you don't get a return on your investment. If you let him play out his last year as a backup, you're paying him $26 million and you're getting nothing in return once he's done, because you're not going to re-sign him. So you send him off now, get what you can get for him, and you've taken care of the quarterback situation anyway with Trey Lance.
So my response to that, my rebuttal to that is what does a potential third round pick or, you know, a fifth round pick do in the grand scheme of things for him, or, you know, for the 49ers? You get what I'm trying to say? Like at what point do you say, okay, diminishing returns versus what he's worth for this season as an insurance policy, you know, in case this kid doesn't pan out and he can't deal with the smoke, so to speak.
But he's not a durable guy. The problem is that usually your backup quarterbacks are grinders that are durable. If you take a look at all your backup quarterbacks, the majority of them are guys that have been in the league 10 years, and they're all durable guys. Jimmy G's not durable. So again, you're paying starter money for a guy that's sitting on your bench that you could get something for, whether it's draft picks, players to be named later, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, again, I see merits to both. Let's see what happens. As is the MO of this show, the news will probably drop right after we're done taping that somebody they sealed a deal on a trade. So let's see what happens. I mean, there's going to be a lot of movement. Like you said, you brought up the potential of Deshaun Watson even, you know, playing this year. They have Jacoby Brissett, right, if I'm not mistaken, as their insurance policy there. But I think we can all agree that Jimmy Garoppolo is an upgrade there. Again, 1 year, $26 million. The grand scheme of things for a starting quarterback is not expensive. So let's see what happens. You know, and again, like you said, you mentioned it. There's going to be an unexpected injury where people are going to freak out. They're going to pull the fire alarm and you know, try to make things happen on the fly. So what we're going to be doing here for the next several weeks leading into the season is we're going to be previewing a division every show these next 7-8 weeks leading up to the first week of the season. Today we're going to start with the NFC East. Okay? Yes, I'm a Giants fan. That's well documented. Let the mirror slinging begin here.
Hey, man,
Grizz.
Respect your team, man. They look good. At least they got the new old-fashioned jerseys. They're going to look good while they play terrible.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah, man. Who knows? Maybe they're going to make a run.
Hey, listen, man. I got faith in Dayball, okay? Hopefully we turn the corner here.
You got faith in your quarterback.
Well, I'm not so much worried about him. I think he did a decent job for the patchwork offensive line that they had around him the past couple years. The bigger concern is, can Saquon Barkley stay healthy? I mean, the dude's a Mack truck that has been broken down on the side of the road for the, you know, better part of 3 or 4 years. You know?
That ship has sailed, in my opinion. He's a running back that is constantly injury prone. You can't have it worse. You can't put two things together and sound worse. Running back, injury prone. And your first 5 years as a running back is pretty much all you got. How long has he been in the league?
First 5 years.
Okay.
Going into his fourth or fifth year?
It's not looking good.
No, and then the thing is like he's a specimen. The guy is a monster. But I think that's also what hamstring his health, right? Like the bigger you are in the sense that the tighter you are, right? Like the more susceptible you are, the less pliable you are, the more susceptible you are to pulling things, right? You have dudes that are going to hit you low. That's why he's got already an ACL repair, right? In his first 4 years, he's had ankle issues his second and third year, right? In between or on either side of the ACL, like, when you're that big of a running back and you're that big of a target, dudes are going to go low on you. You're a big target that needs to go down. They're going to chop you down from below.
There's a few factors that go into the Giants situation. First of all, that's why you don't pick or draft running backs with the first 5-6 picks of the draft. Because it is, in today's NFL, the running back, you can draft anybody in the second, third round, and he ends up being an all-pro. You can go running back by committee, a million things. That's number one. Number two, the offensive line that the New York Giants have played with over the last 6, 7, 8 years has been horrible. Terrible. Their offensive game planning has been terrible. And then their quarterback play has sucked. So it puts everything in a bad perspective. The receiver room gets hurt every year. Every receiver goes down by the third game of the season. It's not just Barkley. It's just all the receivers. The tight end, they had a tight end that had concussions every other week or got hurt. Ingram, right? Evan Ingram?
Yes.
Got hurt every week. I mean, again, those are the things that you have to work on for your team. At this stage of the game, looking at things, one of the magazines that I look at and I follow for information has their roster as the 5th worst roster in the NFL. They're only favored in 4 football games. Their average line is they're getting 2.5 points minimum per game. At minimum.
Ooh.
They're an underdog in 12 games.
This unfortunately doesn't sound good. Like, you just described everything that could be a bad thing that's going to happen to the New York Giants this season. Would it be safe to say that as of right now, we would pick them as the 4th team in the division?
I would agree with you. Mm-hmm. Taking my biases out of the equation, I would have to agree with you. Now, the good thing is they fixed their front office issues, right? They brought in Joe Schoen who was the assistant GM in Buffalo. Okay, they brought in Brian Daboll, who's the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. So those two individuals who have worked together to build that offense, and we all know what Buffalo is. They're a preeminent, favorite now in the AFC. They understand how to build a team. And Brian Daboll, the reason why he was so highly regarded is what he was able to do with Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen coming out of college was a large, right? A big 6'4", prototypical pocket quarterback, but was inaccurate, right? Had questions with his ability to consistently throw the ball down the field with accuracy, right? Because when he was at Wyoming, they leaned on him as the kind of like a Cam Newton, dual threat quarterback, right? And they didn't force anything upon him. They worked with his skill set. They brought his deficiencies and they worked on it slowly, right? They didn't mess with his confidence, and now look what he's developed into. So that gives me hope that Brian Daboll will be able to kind of scrape away the old paint, right, and all of kind of the shell shock that Daniel Jones has, and rebuild him from the ground up. So that's where my optimism lies. But again, that's mitigated with the, as you just alluded to, their atrocious situation with their roster, right? Yes, they have to build the quarterback. They have to rebuild his mechanics and his skill set. But that's all going to be mitigated if they don't address the offensive line. That's the biggest question offensively. And on the defense, it's their defensive backfield. So we can't block for the quarterback. And then defensively, we can't cover the broad side of a barn.
Safe to say this is a long-term project for the Giants. So I I've already heard everything you guys say. I'm at 4 with them. You got anything else, Gil, on the Giants?
No. I was just gonna say and allude to his, him talking about the front office. They did a good job in the draft. I do think that the future does look brighter. I do think that this year is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. He has to show promise if he's going to continue to be their quarterback. Yeah. If not, they'll look to draft their next quarterback and move on from there.
We're not asking for, 10 wins from the kid. We're not even asking probably for like 8 wins. We're just asking improvement. Can we see a better version of this quarterback down for the next couple of years? Because, like you said, he could be great and still they're going to probably be losing games that they're going to get
realistically, if we're going with predictions here, we're looking at 7-10, 8-9.
Wow, that's high. Sometimes that wins a division in that division.
Stop it. Yeah, I haven't finished my thought. Hey, coach is having a conniption here. I'm giving you the play-by-play.
I don't think we get past 4
I think
wins.
his heart skipped the beat.
Yeah,
He's got he might be going through a coronary. Nope. Stroke.
You guys can't see this, but this might have been the most controversial thing that Frankie said on this show since he started. Because our beloved coach is in a free-for-all here.
I was
about to transition to, we've talked a lot about the 4th best team in this division to Commanders, but now we have to address.
And my last point with that is.
To address what it
and my last point with that is I think they're drafting a quarterback regardless.
I think you should be happy they go 6-12, 6-11.
If they go 7-10,
they go 6-11. You have a bright future. 8-9, one game away from 500. I mean,
if they go 7-10, they're gonna sign this guy to a 10-year contract. Bro.
What?
Get out of here.
7-10, he's automatically coach of the year. Put your money down. That's a given.
All right, let's transition to the
moving along.
Let's transition to I believe number 3 is the Commanders.
So the Commanders, their biggest pickup this offseason was Carson Wentz. Now they had the Heineken man behind there. Who, you know what? Hey man, kudos to you. Yeah, you achieved your dream. You started NFL games. But I think we can all agree that Carson Wentz is an upgrade. Ever so slightly, but still an upgrade.
I mean,
I think it makes their team better. Oh, he's asking for the mic.
Not statistically speaking, Carson Wentz did not play at all up to Heineke's level of performance. So again, Carson Wentz sucks. I really thought that last year would bring back his best.
I did too.
He had a great offensive line, had weapons, had a great running game, and Carson Wentz did
nothing.
Carson Wentz things.
And here's the thing. Every game until the last game, you could say that he had an improved year from what before. But when you lose to the Jaguars with your playoffs on the line, I'm sorry. That's all I need to see. So I don't think it's that big of an upgrade than Heineke. It's just that he's a name that, once again, was drafted, the second player drafted. He had an MVP-like year before he got hurt, the year they won the Super Bowl, and everybody's still holding out hope that he's going to become that again. And, we were just talking about injury-prone. Here's a guy, once again, you can't rely on him the whole year. He's someone that you think is going to get hurt at any moment. And when he doesn't, he's not going to come up with the big play like he needs to. So I don't know about upgrade.
Let's see what happens. Again, that was their key acquisition this offseason. I think the Commanders go as their defense goes.
Yeah. I think they'll get they're probably a 6-7 maybe win team, because at the end of the day, these people do have to win some games. They play each other. And
also, and if you look at the receiving core, right, we're talking about Carson Wentz, right? That guy needs a bona fide number 1 to help him out. And they got a bunch of number 2s.
Yeah, McLaurin's not a number 1.
Yeah, listen, he's a fantasy number 1.
No, but with that being said, though, if when you compare accuracy and things of that nature, again, Wentz just isn't that good. He's dead last over the last 2 years in any type of accuracy, even short passes, even passes within 5 yards. He's dead last, which to me tells me that it's a reach to get him. I don't know what exactly he's going to bring to the table. And it's a complete question mark. And as you said, their defense is what may save them. Also, they get to play the South instead of the West this year, the AFC South, which has the Jaguars and the Texans. They get to play the NFC North as compared to playing the NFC South, which Chicago, Detroit, and even Minnesota has a new coach. So we'll see how that goes. They get the Falcons. So, yes, they're definitely entrenched at number 3, but not because of Carson Wentz. It's more schedule related.
Grizz?
Oh, I'm done. I think, like I said, maybe 6 games they win. They're not really high on my radar. They're only that high because they're better than the Giants, I think. That's it. But, I mean, the only 2 teams left on this division is where that's going to be the fun.
Well, let's jump into the Cowboys here real quick. Again, I think their strength in the past 10 years for the Cowboys has been their offensive line. However, that's been a boom or bust situation for them because for the past several years here, these guys haven't been able to stay healthy. Right? They gave big money to Tyron Smith a couple years back. You know, he hasn't played a full season in 7 years. He's missed 20 games over the last two seasons. And that was after they gave him the big money contract. Right? They're supposed to be their anchor. Okay? Dak Prescott, he showed to be a bona fide, star quarterback or had the makings of it. But massively inconsistent at running back. Okay? You have Zeke Elliott going up and down here. Who knows what we're going to get with him. And then for all the talents that they have in that receiving core, again, another inconsistent group of athletes. Right? So they got rid of Amari Cooper, which, again, in my eyes, regresses their progression there as an offense. And let's see if they can take steps forwards defensively. Micah Parsons is that dude. Like, he is that dude on the edge and in the middle. He had I think it was a 29% pass rush win rate, which was second only to, take a guess, Aaron Donald. So we're talking about the best pass rusher or the best defensive lineman in the game right now. He was second to that man. So, things are they have the potential, but let's see if they can put it together. I don't really have that much faith in Mike McCarthy.
They need to win in spite of McCarthy. They're going to be favored in 11 games. Their average line is -2.5. So, again, they're going to be favored up and down the schedule. Again, just like the Giants, just like the Commandos, the Redskins, they also now this year will face the AFC South, which gives them the Texans and the Jaguars. It gives them the Colts and the Titans as well, which will be 2 tough games. It gives them the Bears, the Lions, and the Vikings. The only difference is they get to play the Bengals, they play Tampa Bay, and they play the LA Rams. And those 3 games are away. I'm sorry. Those 3 games are away. So that's going to be the challenge for them. I do think they win 10 games. I do see them winning at least 10. Their over-under is 12. I'm sorry, 10.5. Their over-under is 10.5. And like I said, I think they can win 10 games and have a great shot at winning the division. And we'll talk about the Eagles next. But the schedule for the Cowboys is very favorable. They play the number 10 schedule as far as strength. And they play 6 opponents who have less than a week to prepare for them. So I think that also plays into their hand to have a winning season and to win their division.
Here's the thing for me with the Cowboys, they're never consistent. No matter who the coach has been, no matter what happens, they're guaranteed. If you told me 12 was their win total this year, it'd be under all day. 10.5, 10 sounds reasonable. But, they're destined to lose games they don't lose. Last year was one of those little lucky years for them. I'm probably I'm not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys if you hear from coming out of my mouth for no reason in particular. never liked them, and they always choke to me. I just think that this year is a comeback year. We're going to come back to the pack. Teams are better. And the beauty is, what I like about those schedules, like you're playing opponents, this is a league that every year things happen. It's not the same. You're always, hey, this team made the playoffs. This team doesn't make the playoffs this year. This team was bad this year. Next year they win 10 more games. You just don't know. So sometimes those things come to factor to me, and I just think that this is maybe a 9-win team at the end of the day, a team that regresses, a team that will let you down. If you're a fan of the Cowboys, I'm sorry. We know someone in our group that's unfortunately one of those blind people, and it's just going to be that way. It will be that way. I have no doubt they finish second.
Listen, I think that their success is going to be reliant on the health of their offensive line. Can they put a full season together with that group? Because again, when they are healthy, they're world class.
They need it to be a perfectly healthy season.
And 2, are they going to have the guts to make the move to give Tony Pollard the lion's share of the carries? Because Tony Pollard has been the more productive running back over the last 2 or 3 seasons than Zeke Elliott. But excuse me, Jerry Jones doesn't want to be wrong, right? I think Zeke is done. Not that he deserves to be phased out completely, but I think Tony Pollard, this team's going to go as Tony Pollard goes, and do they have the guts to make him the centerpiece in that backfield? I think that's what's going to determine how far they go and their success this season. But I think we can all agree, certainly they are slated at number 2 in the division, which brings us to the Eagles. All right, Jalen Hurts, I think, surprised everybody. Was very productive last year. I think they had the best rushing attack in the NFC last year.
In the NFL, period.
And he was a large part of that. Now, can they expand the offense? Can he show the ability, improve the ability to push the ball downfield on a consistent basis? Not that he can't, but can he do it consistently? And I think that's one of the main questions that the Eagles have. I think across the board, though, they are a very strong team roster-wise. Dallas Goedert at tight end, I think he has a breakout year this year. Again, needs to stay healthy. He has been, banged up a little bit. But I think that dude is one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league when he's healthy.
You got rid of Hurts. I mean, you got to believe in this guy. You have a team that they've drafted really well. They have a lot of pieces that are on the way up. I'm a big fan of Hurts. I think he's as good as advertised. And if you want to talk schedules, okay. They start out with at Detroit, home against Minnesota, at Washington, home against Jax. That's a 4-0. If you want to say off the top, I gotta pick who's gonna win. I'd say 4-0 right there. They got the Cardinals then, and then they would start their big game against Dallas to see who's gonna be the team. I just think everything's lining up for the Eagles. They made it last year the way nobody thought would happen. I think they're ready to take that next step. I see 11 wins out of this team.
Yeah, they are favored in 11 games. Their over-under is at 9. They're a team that plays at number 2 easiest.
They're at 9?
At 9.
Oh, for sure. I'm going.
The number 2 easiest schedule in terms of opponents. Win by Vegas. They also play the number 26 rush defense schedule.
Did they not finish last year with the number 1 rushing team?
Yeah. Mr. Morales did mention that. The only problem with that is, though, that this year they're going to move up and face the 6th toughest schedule of past defenses. So him throwing the ball, Hurts throwing the ball, is crucial. Will be the key to them being able to make that jump and get through there. With that being said, the Cowboys are the number 1 favorite team to win the division. Their defense is what could make the difference, because last year their defensive backfield did a great job of turning the ball, getting turnovers. So we'll see how this works out versus Philadelphia. There should be regression in Dallas's turnover ratio.
That's the thing. The turnovers, it's one of those that you got more than you should get.
It should correct. There should be regression there. So therefore, they should not get as many turnovers as they got. So it gives Philadelphia an even playing field. But I am concerned with Hurts' ability to throw the ball and be consistent with it, especially at the NFL level.
Right.
We've noticed how athletic quarterbacks have had a hard time doing that. Even elite athletic quarterbacks have had a hard time throwing the ball in this league.
I don't think he's a top 10 worthy like other quarterbacks in this league have been mentioned before.
So we're going to see.
But having said that, I think he's a serviceable guy.
Right.
I think he will improve on his passing abilities. I believe his talent that he has to give the ball to is really, really good.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned the schedule because they get to play Pittsburgh, who's a team in transition.
Correct.
Okay, they play New Orleans, who again, I think New Orleans is going to be a real sleeper team. I really like them a lot. And they play the Cardinals, which to me is that toss-up team in the West. Mm-hmm. They have all the tools, but can't.
Yeah, what team are we going to see?
Now, it's early enough in the season where the Cardinals are usually good early on in the season.
Oh, that's the thing.
They usually do their pitfall.
Last year, the Cardinals were the last team to lose a game.
Right. Well, if in the last 2 years, Coach, if you like the Grizz, if you take a look at it, the last 2 years, after week 9 or week 10 is when the Cardinals fall apart. They fall apart.
But I'm saying it. So even when I said the Eagles could come out 4-0 or something, that doesn't mean you win anything. Nothing gets won in September. Nothing gets won in October. But that's obviously the way you want to start. You want to win your games. You want to do all that. I just think that the matchups between them is where it's going to come down to, as always. They're as evenly matched up. I think besides the 2 games they play against each other, you'll have the same amount of wins. So it will all come down to how do their games play against each other. You're right. Dallas is a better pass defense, a better defense overall. But I think the kid is going to improve. You're still a little doubtful. I see that. Maybe it's more that I don't like Dallas. Once again, I'm a little blinded sometimes. I'm honest.
It's just funny. Like I just see this playing out. Like it always.
Hell, I think
the
Giants are going to beat the Dallas. They're playing Thanksgiving for the first time. I don't think I've seen them play.
We're solid.
Each other.
We're solid for a split against the Cowboys all the time.
I think you always give them, something to hustle. Thanksgiving in Dallas, they will choke like they usually do.
I just see this division coming down to what it always comes down to is, they play each other twice during the season, and it's going to come down to one of those
I'm really glad
2 last, divisional games at the end of the year.
Yeah, but I'm glad this year they play, I think, 3rd or 4th last game. Last year they had to play the last game. Sometimes those games don't really mean that much. Yeah, maybe sometimes. But even then, you don't want to play the last game of the season with something on the line sometimes. Sometimes these guys they're either hurt, you're not going to get a good game out of it. So I like the fact that this particular game was played 3 to 4 games before the end of the season. I mean, who knows? Maybe Washington's good enough and they're up there. Because
the bad thing is it'll be back-to-back away games. They play at Chicago, they play at the Cowboys, then they play New Orleans, and they play the Giants. So again, that Cowboys game is at Dallas, coming off of an away game with Chicago. So again, that one there is.
If everybody thinks of bad teams, Chicago's also another team that should be not playing that well. So
correct.
If you're going to have a road game before, that shouldn't be that bad. It's just going to be, once again, the NFL. It's going to be up and down. It's going to be crazy. Just think the Eagles will reign supreme at the end.
So you heard it here first. Eagles, NFC East champions 2022. Let's see what happens.
That's my take on it. I think Coach Gill's a Dallas Cowboy if he had to pick.
I'm not a Cowboy fan.
No, you're not a Cowboy fan. I'm just saying, if you're picking, you're going with the Cowboys.
The way it looks.
That's all I'm saying.
My only fear is McCarthy. McCarthy scares the crap out of me.
That's the thing. That coach is not a good coach. So.
And the New York Giants is sleeper for the wild card.
Frankie's just a
and we'll be right back for with the last segment. And we're back to close out the show with some NCAA football talk. We're going to start off our previews with college football with the AAC conference, which is on its last legs with all the monumental moves that have been going on with these conference shuffles. But coach is going to take it away with the top 3 teams in the conference as it stands, and let's see what the outlook is for the AAC champions, which Cincinnati. We're going to start off with them.
Yeah, these the 3 top teams in the AAC will be moving on from the AAC. They'll be no longer part of that conference. They will be moving to the Big 12. So we'll see how that's going to work out with this whole conference realignment. The first team we'll talk about is Cincinnati, which is the defending champs. They have 46.2% of their offense returns. They do lose their quarterback, who's been their starter since 2018. Their top running back and wide receiver. Their offensive line is a solid situation there. They have 107 career starts among them. So again, offensively, they should lean a little bit more on the ground game, even though they have one of their quarterbacks that is playing for them, was a backup with them, and he played at Eastern Michigan last year. He played for Eastern Michigan, so he does bring some experience. So we'll see how that works out. On defense, they only bring back 39.5%. They lost their 2 stud DBs, their 2 top D linemen, and their 2 top linebackers. So that, to me, was where the question mark comes in with Cincinnati. Their defense has always been very, very solid. Luke Fickell being a defensive guy, coming from Ohio State. He is one of the best recruiters around. So I do think that they'll be at the top. Again, they have a new offensive coordinator coming in. So it's going to be give and take. It's between them and UCF because they play each other. The next team we'll look at is Houston. They lost in the AAC championship game. They will also be headed to the Big 12 in 2023. They return over 78% of their offense. Their quarterback is back. He threw for 3,500 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Their top running back did get hurt during the spring, so that's going to be a difficult situation for them. We'll see who fills in there. Their top wide receivers do return, along with some transfers that they brought in. Which, by the way, this whole transfer portal is helping a lot of these teams that are losing players along the way to fill in spots. We just got to see how quickly they can assimilate the offenses and defenses. The O-line is a question mark in Houston. They only have 65 career starts among them. It is coming off of a stacked O-line last year, so we'll see how that goes with their offense. 60% of their defense does return. Their D-line is called Sack Avenue. They have been doing very well with that. It's their core is coming back. They have no problem there. Linebackers is a bit of a mixed bag. A couple of freshmen, a couple of juniors, and their 2 starting corners are gone, but they do return both safeties. The staff is intact. Holgerson and company do have a great shot at their first championship, coming off of losing to Cincinnati last year in the championship game. The third team is UFC. They are up and coming. I'm sorry, I have UFC in my mind. It's UCF with Coach Malzahn. Gus Malzahn is leading that pack for his second year. He brings in a new offensive coordinator who worked with him at Auburn, along with Tim Harris Jr. Yes, our Tim Harris over at Booker T. Ice Harris' son is the co-offensive coordinator. And they have 2 co-defensive coordinators, Travis Williams and David Gibbs. Those guys have been there for 2 years now. Again, 67% of their offense returns. The quarterback should be the young man from Ole Miss that transferred, John Plumlee, who's a good athlete, runs the ball, dual threat quarterback. The running back room is stacked. They've got a bunch of good-looking guys. 3 of their top 5 receivers return, including their tight end, who is a UF transfer. Their offensive line should be a strength with over 100 career starts among them. They look like offensively, they look like they'll be able to do some of the things that he did at Auburn. We'll see how that goes. Defensively, they only get 55% back of their guys. They got 6 defensive linemen returning with experience. The linebacker unit is young, but they should be fast and physical. The only issue with them is health. And their DB unit comes back almost intact, which is the strength of their defense. We'll see how they make it. We'll see how they go. Those are the top 3 in the AAC. Next week, we'll get into the rest of that conference. And then we'll also start touching up on the ACC.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you're saying that, right? These are the 3 marquee teams in the ACC, or the AAC, I should say.
In the American.
In the American Conference, right? They're all moving on after this season. Now the AAC is trying to recover by assimilating teams from Conference USA. Now, this is part of a bigger trend in college football right now, where there's massive shifts in the conference, where everything's kind of moving towards, super conferences. Now, the AAC was bolstered by Cincinnati, who was the first Group of 5, team to make it to the playoffs. The issue is okay, so they're assimilating Conference USA, but that conference may dissolve when it's all said and done, once this shuffle is said and done with, right? We're moving to probably 4 super conferences, in the next 5 years when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I don't think we were on the air when the UCLA USC move happened, and that right there just signifies this is it. UCLA and USC are going to the Big Ten. Newsom, the governor, I saw an article today demanding UCLA to explain yourself why you're leaving. What do you mean, why? It's called money. It's all about money. They don't care. The TV deal that the Big Ten has is why they're going. They're just looking for money, and everybody's trying to go right now before, who's left out. Who's going to be left out when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I do believe that there is going to be a 4 super conference situation.
Pac-12 and Big 12 are trying to get something. I think that thing dissolved the other day, but they're trying to build. I do see also a realignment in the non-Power 5 groups, and there will be some good conferences in that realignment. That's definitely going to be a situation where hot take.
Many of those teams that are in the MAC and things of that nature are put into other conferences, and they'll be able to somehow, just like Cincinnati was able to build up and get there, I'm sure someone from those conferences will be able to build up and get to that position. UCF was the team a few years ago that was knocking on the door. Then now Cincinnati's been the team that was knocking on the door and now moves in. So again, with this whole realignment, there might be a shuffle of a couple of teams that go to the non-Power 5 group that are strong Big 12 teams, Pac-12 teams, ACC teams. You never know where they line up. And again, like a Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh might not be attractive to a super conference. I don't know. Because again, you're looking at TV venue, you're taking a look at location. Those are all things that are analyzed when these teams or when these conferences realign. Because again, taking Houston, that's a major market play.
Of course.
UCF is in Orlando. Cincinnati is a football play. So again, those are all situations that help to bolster the Big 12 in their realignment. I'm sure they're going to drop a couple of teams sooner or later. So those teams may be able to build back and sneak into a playoff situation 5, 6, 7 years down the road.
It'll happen regardless of the conferences, because if you're going to add the 12 teams that go to the playoffs, that right there, a non-Power 5 team should be able to make it every year as long as they're undefeated or a one-loss team. Once you have that out of the way, I just think this whole alignment of these conferences is just that's it. They're done. They don't have to listen to the NCAA anymore. Players are getting paid now. These super conferences, it's all about TV deals now. So let's just, at the end of the day, the rivalries, all this tradition doesn't matter anymore. These people don't care.
I'm all for the realignment. I'm all for, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to increase the competition across the board. I got 2 points of contention here. One, let's go to a 16-team playoff, right? Especially if we're going to go with these super conference situations.
No, they're not going 16.
I want to see. I want to see a bigger playoff because that's more interesting. That's more fun. You're going to see upsets.
I think always.
Okay?
I'll say it to the day I die. 8 teams should have been it always.
Okay, I'm good.
It should have always been 8.
I'm good with 18.
They're not going to do 16. They're going to do the 12.
Grizz in division. In FCS, in Division 2,
no, it's all 16.
They do. No, it's 32 teams.
I know.
They can do it.
Dude, I know they can do it.
The argument has always been, academic schedule. No, that's not.
I totally get that. But they're at 4. They're never going to get to that. 12 is what they're talking about. They're skipping 8. They've been talking about 12.
Okay. And my other point of contention is, can we change the conference names, please? Because these conference names mean nothing now.
That doesn't matter.
You got the Big Ten,
12s,
which is supposed to be
12s,
Midwest teams. Yeah, we got West Coast teams. We got dudes that are surfers in that conference now. Big 12 was supposed to be like the South.
Yeah, but I could get away with calling it big whatever number.
SEC, we got a team that's like bordering the West. ACC, there's freaking teams that are in the Midwest. Like, can we change the conference names?
Yeah, that's
can we do something about that?
All right, let's let the adults talk, please.
Whoa.
Now, first of all, you're never going to have that many playoff games because the bowl games will never stop being a part of what's being done.
Yeah, but they're gonna do a 12 team for sure.
They can move up. I do think they could go to 8. I don't know if 12 for sure.
Oh, I hope it's 8, but that's all they've been talking about. It's 12. 12 because they'll give the first 4 a bye week, and then you incorporate the bowls like they're doing now. They can do that.
Correct. Well, and that's why I'm saying I think they can do it easier with 8 than with 12, but we'll see. That's my contention. That's why it'll never be that big because bowl games need to exist.
Yeah,
those bowl games bring money.
But once
to
they realized that these bowl games existed, they existed with one national championship game. Then they existed now with the 4 games because you rotate it. So you give the round, the quarterfinals and the first 4 that play, you give it to these sub bowls. Once you get to the final 4, we're back to doing it like they're doing it now.
But see, I think the bowl games, like you said, will continue to exist, and they can make it regional, kind of like how with the NCAA tournament in basketball, that they had the regional, playoff situations, right? Because the Rose Bowl was always
they don't care
Big
about
Ten,
regional anymore because they're sending teams from the Pac-12 to the Big
you can
Ten.
have the
Like
you said, quarterfinals. You can have the Rose Bowl. Those teams that made it to the playoff in that region can play. Right in that bowl game.
I get you.
Same thing with the Orange Bowl. Those teams that made it to the playoffs in that region can play there. I mean, it's doable. You have adapt and overcome. Right, we talked about this earlier.
Listen, I'll tell you real quick why it's a nice thought, but it will never happen because simple. They do it in the NCAA tournament. The first couple games, they send the best team to like the closest part. I get that, but you're gonna have like the major 4 or 5 bowls, right? The ones that are now in the playoffs, those have to be there.
Or 2 more. You're gonna have.
So you're gonna get what you're gonna get is then the Motor City Bowl. Where's that one? Like Detroit. Right. That will send the team from the Big Ten that wins for the first game of the first 4 or the quarterfinal. I get that. But the Orange Bowl will be said, hey, the Orange Bowl, you're the semis this year in 2022. You're the championship the next year. That's how they've been doing it now for the last few years.
Correct. The big 4. And then the national championship game, it just goes to whatever city or whatever.
Yeah, the same thing they've been doing. You do that. But now when you add more, you'll add 4 more games for quarterfinals. You'll add another 4 games. If
you would have to use the New Year's.
Yeah, you use those
and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day bowls.
The Gator
and then
bowls,
move on like
the
that.
Citrus bowls, all those other bowls that the next tier. Those would be the other bowls that you use for that. They're not going to be played on New Year's Day anymore. They'll now have to be played. It would be December 20 something, and then you play the next week, and then you play. But that's what's going to happen.
Again, scheduling is an issue, and the bowl games. But I mean, an 18 playoff is not a huge problem.
No,
12 teams could be a little dicey now because it's 6 bowls. But I don't know. I mean, we could take a look at that. So that's where we're at. College football and NFL is right around the corner.
That's all that matters.
Hey, baby.
Yeah, listen, it's gonna be fun. We're right back in our wheelhouse. It's going to be enjoyable as this stuff starts ramping up. And there's going to be, new developments. Like I said, we're good for this. We get off the air and you know that there's going to be some craziness that happens as soon as we sign off.
Well, football, like I said, it's going to be back for the next 6 months every week, we're going to be here every week talking about it. 'Cause
Football's back, baby.
That's our baby.
It's our baby. That's our wheelhouse, and we're excited for it. All right? High school, college, pros, we're all in. And it's going to be fun. So, we're excited to be back. It's good to see you, boys. Let's have some fun with it. 2 coaches, 1 Grizz. We want to shout out our sponsor, General Carnitas, Gourmet Meats. Go ahead and check them out, generalcarnitas.com. All right? Only the best meats. And game. And poultry. Deliciousness. Grizz.
If there's anything that you can think of us, is that we give you the best meat in town.
Don't forget the sausage. Hot, spicy sausage.
Phenomenal sausage. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. 2 coaches, 1 Grizz. Out.